In this video, we're going to be talking about angle measures and how to do some simple angle measure problems. In this first example here, we've been given this diagram. We have the points A, B, C, D, and E. These are all points. And then we have one line here, which is a straight line, and then rays that connect E to B and E to C. We've been given some information about the angles. We've been told that the measure of angle CED is equal to 25 degrees, and that the angles AEB and BED are a linear pair. So let's break down the information we've been given before we get into finding the measures of the angles we've been asked to find down here. So first of all, we have this diagram here. We've been told that the measure of angle CED is equal to 25 degrees. So let's go ahead and find CED. I want to start with my first point here, C. So I have point C, and then I'm looking for the angle CED. So I go from C to E to D. That's going to be this angle right in here. We've been told that that's 25 degrees. So we can say that this angle right here is going to be 25 degrees. Now, because we have these little angle measures here and they each have one line through them, that means that these angles are equal to one another, so we can say that this angle is also 25 degrees. For example, over here in this diagram, the second example that we'll get to in a minute, we know that angles 1 and 4 are equal because they each have one line through them, and that angles 2 and 3 are equal because they each have two lines through them. That's sort of the method we use in geometry to indicate that angles are equal to each other, or that angles are congruent to one another, which means that they have equal measures. So these two angles are congruent or equal. They're both 25 degrees. We've also been told that AEB, so let's find that AEB here, this angle, and we can go ahead and indicate that angle right there. And BED, so BED, that's this angle right here, that they form a linear pair, or that they are a linear pair. To be a linear pair, it means that the two angles together, added together, are going to equal 180 degrees. You can think about it this way: a pair of angles sitting on a line, so a linear pair. The line here is the line through the points A, E, and D, this line right here, and we have these two angles, AEB and BED, that are sitting on this line. Well, what do we know about a line? It's perfectly straight, so from one point here, A, to the other point, D, is going to be 180 degrees. The total here is going to be 180 degrees. So when we talk about a linear pair, we mean a pair of angles whose sum is 180 degrees. So we know that AEB and BED added together is going to be 180 degrees. So let's go ahead and solve for some of the values we've been asked to find down here. First, we've been asked for the measure of angle BEC. Well, if we look at here, BEC, that's this angle right here. We already know that that's 25 degrees because we were told in the problem that this angle was congruent to CED, and we were told that CED was 25 degrees. So this is going to be equal to 25 degrees. What about angle AEB? Well, that's AEB right here. We know that these two angles, AEB and BED, are a linear pair. Since we know that the total of these two right here, 25 plus 25, is 50 degrees, and we know that the total is 180, that means that this measurement right here has to be 180 minus 50, which is going to be 130 degrees. So we can say this is going to be equal to 130 degrees. What about angle AEC? Well, that's going to be AEC right here. That's going to be this angle, AEC, right here. We know that part of it, AEB, is 130, and we know that BEC is 25, so we can say that angle AEC is just 130 degrees plus 25 degrees, which we can say is going to be 155 degrees. The other way we could have done that was taken the full 180 degrees and just subtracted this little part right here, which was the only part not included in AEC. So we could have said 180 degrees minus 25 degrees, and we would have gotten the same 155. So either way, 130 plus 25 or 180 minus 25, both of them would have gotten you to the angle AEC at 155 degrees. Let's do another example similar to this one. We have this figure here, the points D, E, F, G, H, and J. We can see already that angles 1 and 4 are congruent. We've been told that because they both have one line through them, so we know that those two angles are equal or congruent. We know that angles 2 and 3 are congruent, and we've been given this information over here about the measurements of angles EDG and FDH. So let's go ahead and sketch that in and see if we can come up with any additional information based on what we've already been given. So the measurement of angle EDG, so that's going to be EDG, this angle right here, is going to be 70 degrees. So we can go ahead and say that this angle right here is going to be 70 degrees. We've also been told that FDH is going to be equal to 60 degrees. So FDH, or this angle right here, is going to be equal to 60 degrees. Now, what information can we find based on what we've been given? Well, if we know FDH is 60 degrees, and FDH just contains angles 2 and 3 right here, right? And we know 2 and 3 are equal. So if angles 2 and 3 are equal, and they are the two angles that make up FDH, and FDH is 60 degrees, then 2 and 3 both have to be half of 60 degrees. In other words, angle 2 has to be 30 degrees, and angle 3 has to be 30 degrees, because we know that they're equal and we know that they add up to 60 degrees, and the only two numbers we can add together that are equal to one another that add up to 60 are 30. In other words, 60 divided by 2 is going to be 30 degrees. So we know both of these are 30. Then, because we know that this angle right here, EDG, is 70 degrees, and we know that that angle is composed of angles 1 and 2, and we know angle 2 is 30 degrees, we can say that angle 1 has to be 40 degrees, because 40 plus 30 is equal to 70. So, because 1 and 4 are congruent, we can also say that angle 4 is 40 degrees. We also know that since 1 and 4 are congruent, and 2 and 3 are congruent, that 1 plus 2 has to be equal to 3 plus 4. So we can say that this part right here, this angle, is also 70 degrees, and that makes sense because we already know that this angle here, angle 3, is 30, and that angle 4 is 40, and 30 plus 40 is 70. So we've marked this up a lot. Let's see if we've found everything that we've already been asked to find. So we've been asked to find angle 2, the measure of angle 2, and we already know that angle 2 is equal to 30 degrees. We found that. The measurement of angle 3, well, angle 3 we know is also 30 degrees. Angles 1 and 4 we've already found are 40 degrees, so we can go ahead and write those in, 40 degrees. What about the measurement of angle EDH? So we have EDH, that's going to be this angle right here from E all the way down to H, like this. Well, we could say that's 40 plus 30 plus 30, or 100. We could also say 40 plus 60 is 100, or 70 plus 30 is 100. Either way we wanted to do it, since we know all of the measurements of these angles, there's several ways that we can get that value. But the angle EDH is going to be 100 degrees. And finally, the angle EDJ, well, that's just the whole thing. So we could say 70 plus 70 is going to be 140. We could also say 40 plus 30 plus 30 plus 40, that'll get us to 140 as well. Or 40 plus 60 plus 40. Any way we want to add it up is fine. We just need to make sure we include angle 1, 2, 3, and 4. The sum of those four is going to be 140 degrees, so this whole thing is 140 degrees.